I remember reading a 6-panel comic from a while ago, and it's a short story about a young girl being a victim of school bullying, and the girl who changed her life. The girl stands proudly and gave her a bright smile, letting the young girl know that everything is going to be okay. She looks at the young girl and noticed how messy her hair looks. She gave them the hairpin that she has been wearing, and that left a big impression on the young girl. She would still wear that hairpin until today. If it weren't for the brave girl, she wouldn't be here. Now she would always be by her side, like how she was there for her at that moment. A short and sweet Blue Archive fan comic that I discovered about a year and a half ago. I thought it was a really good short comic and gave me more feel of wanting a Problem Solver 68 prequel story. Left a not vote on the Reddit translation post and didn't really bother with it much after. Then sometime later I browsed Twitter, as the usual degenerate I am, and actually found the same artist that made the wholesome fan comic from earlier. But their recent fan art looks a little bit different, and a bit more fluffier. It's Blue Archive characters, but in a small blob catified version. My reaction to the art I've seen was like how I first discovered cute cat videos on the internet for the first time ever. And of course, I instantly checked out their Pixiv profile to see more, and
that's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Guys, I think I found the key for world peace. You know, people will ask like, you know, how can you make an already cute things, like in this case, cute anime girls, into something more cuter? This artist knows the sauce. Like, yeah, make it cats. Blobs, cat blobs, small, you know, they're squishy, and they're cats. Now it's 10 times more cuter. Like, surely this cannot get more even cuter. Oh my god, is that Hina? Anyways, when I was busy indulging myself to the cuteness, their latest work at the time caught my eye. It's a short comic series about a small cat Kayoko. The first few panels we see cat Kayoko hungry for some cat food, so then she brought her bowl to the one who usually feeds her. The person that I would call the owner happily obliged. But I just noticed that they have ran out of cat food. But don't worry though, we still have a can of tuna. Cat Kayoko smiles brightly, and all of a sudden, an image of a person with her likeness pops out in her head. A seemingly vivid memory of the past. On the next panel, Cat Kayoko notices something on the TV. Seems like a band performing on a stage, and they wear an oddly familiar clothing. It's the similar logo she saw from that memory. The weird feeling and confusion that she felt at the time motivated something in her. She knows what she needs to do, and she began to run off to the outside world. Her instincts told her to go to the nearest CD shop and find the item that would connect her and them. She grabs the music CD with the feeling of excitement, finally meeting the person that she didn't know has been longing for. She then waits on the box on the place where she thought that she can meet that person. She then waited and waited and waited and waited. last few panels showing them having a good time together, while human Kayoko slowly disappears. It seems like that her time is up. Cat Kayoko then puts up a happy expression. She's glad that she spent the time with them. Even though their time was short, she then picks up the umbrella that they had dropped and goes on with their life. Seeing through the last panels left with a bittersweet aftertaste. A recurring theme of this fan comic series. This is Urode, a Blue Archive fan artist that does Blue Archive fan illustrations and short comics. They are mostly known as the artist that makes Blue Archive characters as the mentioned cute blob cat creatures, and a comic series revolves around those characters called Brunya Kaivu, or Brunya for short. Tells the story of the daily lives of a cat owner and their interesting breed of cats. Brunya series is still ongoing till this day, with having about 375 chapters at the time of writing of this video script. The fan comic format uses what is called connected episodic storytelling. I don't know if that's the correct term for it. It basically means that they do self-contained short stories that also connects to the other stories, something like that. Just like, for example, the Kayoko one from before. You don't need to read any other of Brunya's chapters to understand the story, but you would feel more emotionally connected to the catified characters beforehand and probably have a bit more understanding of what the world of Brunya is. Let's talk about that for a bit. The cat creatures resembles the character from the original IP, but mostly of their characters, interaction, and narratives derives from the author's headcanon. Just like most of other fan works out there that has a narrative or a story, it is made purely out of the classic question of what ifs. What if Kayoko, a character that is known to love cats, maybe a bit too much according to the fanons, starting having cat ears and a cat tail? What if they are just straight up a small kitten that wants to get adopted? Maybe also throw in another character like a person who would live in boxes. What is it like to live with those two, and how will they interact with each other? Even though these two characters in the original won't even see each other or even have a chance to meet in the original world, in a world of what ifs, we can imagine them being good friends. What if we add more characters to the mix? How does the individual personality act around Sensei, the owner, for the first time, and warming up to them as they build trust with the person who adopted them? Let's add Hina, a character that is known to be overworked, giving us a chance to pamper her, like tucking her into bed, and tell her good night's sleep. Oh my god. The power of what ifs creates limitless possibilities of stories, concepts, or even very niche ideas that only you and several others could think of. Just like what Urode does with their series, a hypothetical world for the sake of cute and happiness. But what if it's for the sake of the opposite? That one thought that you think you don't have because you don't want to see yourself as this sociopath. The question that lingers in the back of your mind and is there because it's a part of the human curiosity. What if the characters go through the emotions of sadness, like grief and despair? Okay, it doesn't actually get that far, so yeah, don't worry, it's not one of those story. That's another script for another video, hopefully. But we are actually going to talk about on something similar. The Kayoko comic from before already gave a feeling of longing for someone that is distant, or even someone that aren't even there. A feeling that some people actually felt before. A real feeling that it has its own word in Welsh that does not have an English direct translation. Hiraeth, often described as a deep longing for a home that no longer exists, or for a home that never was. It is very synonymous of the feeling of homesickness, and it is the closest word for a direct translation for it, but for the context of Hiraeth, it is more of a feeling that highlights the bond between individuals and their heritage, land, and community. It is often described as a combination of emotions. It encompasses feelings of longing, nostalgia, homesickness, and a yearning for something intangible. Individuals who experience Hiraeth might find themselves reminiscing about the past, daydreaming about distant places, or seeking connections that transcend time and space. I think you already know where I'm going with this. The Kayoko from Burunya is what comes after the former. The world of the cat beings is created by mirroring the people from another original world as a foundation. The roots of their being is on another side, and when one has the feeling of longing for it, one has the desire to reconnect with one's roots. The reason why this particular panel caught my attention and made me feel a sort of way is because I subconsciously relate to it. I subconsciously feel Hiraeth. Or maybe just me overthinking it. I think we all had that feeling in one way or another. A feeling that is hard to describe, yet an emotion strong enough that when a simple cute comic puts you in a state of loss. Loss for a better wording on how you would explain the emotion you are feeling right now. Staring blankly at the monitor screen while you absorb everything in. And then opening a Word document, trying your best to explain that feeling while having the idea to make it as a YouTube video for an audience that thought you have gone insane. Why did this YouTube channel turn into those boring video essay channels? Where is part 3? But that isn't the only short comic by Urode that made me feel things. There is another one that, lack of a better word, made me legit cry for about 3 times, rereading it. And it's about Hoshino. But first, I want you to pause this video and give this comic a view if you haven't, since I'll be skimming through the early pages of the comic. It doesn't have that many pages, and if you prefer a video format, they also have a video slideshow version of it that is 7 minutes and 30 seconds on their YouTube channel. You can find them in the description of this video, and I want you to experience it for yourself first. And while we've just experienced this for the first time, I'm going to watch this for the 4th time. Surely I won't cry again the 4th time I'm watching this. It's a comic about Hoshino getting a pet fish. Now, we know that Hoshino likes the Ewok more than the average person. Yes, even this cat creature. It is originally one of those things that is revealed once you've read their relationship story in the original game. You can see her getting excited and nerding out a bit in her life 2D when we invited them to the aquarium.
あれがクジラってやつなの？すごい。こんなところ初めて。あれ見て、お魚だ。
This comic took that fact about Hoshino and made a 26-page short comic out of it. After getting her new fish friend, she is as excited like if you bought your dog a personal ball pet. You see her spend time taking care of them, showing them to her friends, even going to sleep with them. Every time she comes home from going outside, she would run to her fish friend excited to tell stories like how she would tell it to an actual person. And then She sees her fish friend looking at the window, seeming like they also wanted to see the outside world. For her friend's sake, she tries to come up with something, and after a bit of thinking and with some tools, she can finally bring her friend to the outside world. She then brings them to her favorite place, the aquarium, and spent her cherished time with her new best friend. She looks at the owner and is kinda confused on why her fish friend is not waking up. The owner goes ahead and tried their best to explain to her that her friend has gone to a faraway place. They are living peacefully in the stars now. It doesn't take long for little Hoshino to process what's going on with all of the sugar-coated words. But with the sudden loss that she's experiencing, she puts her heads up and smiles with tears flowing down. Her friends then comfort her for her loss. She then drew her fish friend beside the stars, the place where they belong now. The owner reaction is what a lot of us are feeling. The next day, she wakes up, remembering on what she needs to do. For the last time, she brought her friend on a stroll outside. She buries her friend and reminiscing about the short time they've had. She looks up at the night sky and saw her friend up there. She waves and she gave her final goodbyes. And in every goodbyes, we move on. But to move on is not to forget. It is something that we need to accept. So, I've mentioned that the comic made me cry for like 4 times.
Fuck.
I'll lie, this is about 7 times at the writing of this video. There's something about this comic that just breaks the dam that holds my tears every time I've seen it. Something that this short comic has that just triggers the sprinklers on my eyes every single damn time I've came across it. And I don't think I'm alone in this one. I came up with like 2 till 3 things on why this comic triggers the emotion. Reason number 1 is because we are already emotionally attached to the original character. Seeing Hoshino trying her best to smile after witnessing her friend floating lifelessly reminded us of Hoshino from Volume 1, the dehydration event. And it also reminded us that she's the kind of character that doesn't want to show weakness to her close ones. And for the second reason, I gotta put on the thinking cap on this one. The comic conveys genuine human grief. Let me explain. You probably already heard of the 5 stages of grief, or the Kubler-Ross model, a model that was introduced by Swiss-American psychiatrist Elisabeth Kubler-Ross in her 1969 book on death and dying. These stages were originally intended to describe people with terminal illness facing their own death. It was later adapted as a way of thinking about grief in general. It is to provide a framework for the complex thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that are often experienced with the loss of a loved one. The stages consist of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. 5 Stages of Grief was also a known framework and is a template that a lot of media usually use for writing stories that conveys that said emotion. While the use of the model is an easy reference to write stories about it, not a lot of media hit the mark for actual viewer relatability. Because the thing is, real human grief is non-linear. The human emotion is too complex to have this linear structure from top to bottom. People are different and each of us process grief differently. While the Kubler-Ross model does provides a more simpler understanding of what grief is, with a nice, neat progression through 5 well-defined stages, there's a reason why the model has a fair share of criticism by other psychologists. And a lot of those criticism is due to the lack of empirical research and evidence. The reason why I brought up the 5 stages of grief is because it's the only framework I recognize that conveys what grief is, and I know that some of you are also the same. When I tried to use the model as a point of reference with the Hoshino comic, obviously it doesn't really work. It has the denial, but it's lacking the other stages. Of course, due to the nature of being a short comic, it can't really fit those in. Or, well, it doesn't really need it. Since there are already many new theories and new ways on how to think what grief is, we can rely on another theory that is more modern, and one of the prominent one is called the dual process model of coping. Developed by Margaret Straub and Hank Schutt, a non-linear model seeks to address shortcomings of prior models of coping, and I think this one fits more on what Hoshino is experiencing in the comic. The dual process model of coping is to oscillate, or for the simpler term, is to go back and forth. To go back and forth between loss-oriented and restoration-oriented phases as we process our grief. In the loss-oriented phases, we grieve and yearn. We look backwards. We might feel resistant to change. We kinda want to feel better, but we also kinda don't. Our grief feels sacred, and we hold it tenderly. In the restoration phases, we don't forget our grief. It remains in the background always, but we open back up to change. We step bravely out into the world, doing new things. We welcome distraction from the pain, and we look forward instead of backwards. The whole second half of the comic describes those back and forth moments. When everything seems to start going back to normal, the very scene that hits the most is when Hoshino let go of the balloon, noticing the aquarium. While she was remembering, she didn't get to put on the smile this time around, like before. And the number 3 reason why this comic is sad as it is, it's because it's cute. I don't know, something about cute things makes us cry. Especially if it's like cute things getting sad. It made it like quadruply sad. It's like cute and funny. But replace the funny to sad or depression or something. And I think that's pretty much it for this video. There are several other short Burunya series like the 2 mentioned ones in this video by Urode that you can check it out yourself. Of course, their links will be in the description below. Please do check them out if you haven't. Like, this video is made to promote their works because, I just really like their work so much. It is definitely worth the follow for having more fluffiness in your life. I remember watching a video that they made for the 3rd anniversary of the game. A story of an overworked sailorman that discovered Blue Archive. And that made them to pick up drawing again, just because they saw the cute memorial lobbies. And then, a certain dialogue from a hard-boiled outlaw inspired them to make a decision of resigning from a black company they worked for. They took a big risk and grinded through so they can draw their favorite characters and make a living out of it. That itself is inspiring, and I don't know about you, but I think Urode deserve some kind of an award.
Urode!
I love his works. I love his work, so I'm glad I'm seeing him in stream right now, dude. Dude,
Aru and Anu.
I have a whole video script about him, dude. Ongoing video script. Thank you for watching, and thank you for 10,000 subscribers. Holy baloney. I can't swear because I like ads on my videos. I was planning on making a special video for 10k, but the making of this video is long overdue. So instead, I'm going to do a special live stream wearing a special costume because of a special promise I regrettably made a year ago. I am going to possibly stream this Sunday on 21st of July, which is coincidentally the special program Blue Archive livestream, and also coincidentally is the day of my birthday. Yep, I'm finally turning 17 years old. Season 7. Thank you to Mark2s and also other YouTube members for supporting this channel until now. Thank you for not canceling. Because of you guys, I can buy 20 packs of instant Nescafe so that I can have more caffeine withdrawal. God, my head hurts a lot. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.